After the age of 50 or 60, the human body begins to change in ways that are often subtle at first, but become more noticeable over time. And many people interpret these changes as a sign that decline is inevitable, that energy loss, stiffness, memory problems, slower thinking, reduced motivation, and chronic discomfort are simply part of growing older. But from the perspective of modern American medicine, this belief is incomplete and often harmful, because aging itself is not a disease, and while the passage of time cannot be stopped, the rate at which the body and brain lose function can be significantly influenced by daily habits, long-term behaviors, emotional health, and the way a person interacts with their environment. And this is why two people of the same age can look, move, and think in completely different ways. In clinical practice in the United States, doctors increasingly focus on what is known as functional age rather than chronological age, meaning how well a person's body systems actually work, how independently they can live, how resilient they are to stress, illness, or injury, and how quickly they recover, because these factors are far more predictive of quality of life than the number of years lived. One of the most important lessons that patients over 60 learn is that aging is not a single process, but a collection of many parallel processes happening in muscles, bones, joints, brain, cardiovascular system, metabolism, immune system, and hormonal balance. And each of these systems responds differently to use, neglect, nourishment, and stress, which means that targeted lifestyle changes can slow decline in one system, even if another system is already affected. Muscle health is central to this understanding because muscle tissue plays a role far beyond movement alone, acting as a key regulator of metabolism, blood sugar control, inflammation, posture, joint stability, and even brain health through biochemical signaling pathways. And after the age of 50, muscle mass naturally declines unless it is actively stimulated, a process that accelerates after 60 and leads to weakness, fatigue, balance problems, increased fall risk, slower metabolism, and greater dependence on others. And this is why, in the United States, preserving muscle is considered one of the most powerful anti-aging strategies available. Strength-based movement sends a signal to the body that muscle tissue is still needed, and when that signal is repeated consistently, the body adapts by maintaining or even rebuilding muscle fibers, improving coordination, and increasing bone density, which reduces fracture risk. And importantly, this does not require heavy weights or extreme workouts, because functional strength training focused on controlled movements, stability, and range of motion is sufficient to produce meaningful benefits even in people who have never exercised before. Movement as a whole is treated as medicine in American healthcare, and walking is one of the most strongly recommended activities for older adults because it integrates cardiovascular stimulation, joint mobility, balance training, and mental relaxation into a single, accessible activity. And studies repeatedly show that people who walk regularly have lower risks of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, depression, and cognitive decline. And what makes walking especially effective is that it can be performed daily without overwhelming the nervous system, which is important because recovery capacity decreases with age, and the goal becomes steady, sustainable activity rather than sporadic, intense effort. Sleep quality becomes increasingly important after 60, and yet many older adults struggle with sleep due to changes in circadian rhythm, increased sensitivity to stress, medical conditions, or poor sleep habits developed over time. And American doctors view sleep as a foundational pillar of health because deep sleep supports brain maintenance, emotional regulation, immune defense, hormone balance, and tissue repair. And poor sleep has been linked to accelerated brain aging, impaired memory, increased pain sensitivity, and higher risk of cardiovascular disease, which means that improving sleep can have wide-ranging benefits across multiple systems simultaneously. Nutrition also shifts in importance with age, and one of the most common problems seen in older adults is inadequate intake of high-quality protein, which accelerates muscle loss, weakens immune response, slows wound healing, and contributes to frailty. And in the United States, nutritional guidance for people over 60 emphasizes regular protein intake spread throughout the day to ensure a continuous supply of amino acids for tissue maintenance, because the aging body becomes less efficient at utilizing protein, making sufficient intake even more critical. And when protein needs are met, many people notice improvements in strength, appetite regulation, and overall vitality. Hydration is another often overlooked factor because the sensation of thirst diminishes with age, leading many older adults to drink less fluid than their body requires. And even mild dehydration can negatively affect cognition, energy levels, digestion, and blood pressure regulation, increasing the risk of dizziness and falls. And American physicians often advise conscious hydration habits rather than relying on thirst alone. Social connection plays a profound role in healthy aging, because humans are biologically wired for interaction, and chronic loneliness activates stress responses that increase inflammation and weaken immune defenses. And large-scale studies in the United States have shown that social isolation significantly increases the risk of depression, dementia, cardiovascular disease, and early mortality, making it a major public health concern. And older adults who remain socially engaged through family relationships, friendships, community involvement, or shared activities tend to show better mental health, cognitive resilience, and emotional stability because social interaction stimulates the brain, provides emotional support, and reinforces a sense of belonging. Preventive healthcare is a defining element of the American approach to aging, because rather than reacting to disease once it becomes severe, doctors emphasize regular monitoring of key health indicators such as blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol levels, vision, hearing, and bone density. Allow early intervention before serious complications develop. And this proactive approach not only reduces hospitalizations and medical costs, but also empowers patients by giving them knowledge and control over their health trajectory. Mental and emotional health are increasingly recognized as central to aging well, because chronic stress, unresolved trauma, anxiety, and depression can accelerate biological aging through hormonal and inflammatory mechanisms. And American medicine now integrates stress management, counseling, and cognitive behavioral approaches into care for older adults, recognizing that emotional resilience supports physical health. One of the strongest predictors of longevity identified in long-term studies is a sense of purpose. Because people who feel that their life has meaning are more likely to stay active, maintain social connections, adhere to medical advice, and recover more effectively from illness or injury. And in the United States, many adults over 60 continue to pursue education, creative expression, volunteering, mentoring, or new hobbies which stimulate the brain, provide structure, and reinforce a positive identity beyond physical limitations. Aging is not about stopping time, but about adapting intelligently to the body's changing needs. And when movement, strength, sleep, nutrition, hydration, social engagement, preventive care, emotional health, and purpose work together, they create a powerful protective network that slows functional decline and preserves independence. And the most important message I want to convey is that it is never too late to benefit from these principles, because the human body remains adaptable throughout life, and even small, consistent changes introduced after 60 can lead to noticeable improvements in strength, clarity, balance, mood, and energy over time, demonstrating that healthy aging is not a matter of luck or genetics alone, but the result of informed, repeated choices that support the body and mind through every stage of life. If this video was helpful and you want to keep getting simple, science-based guidance for staying strong, mobile, and independent as you age, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I regularly share proven exercises, practical health tips, and clear explanations that actually work in real life, especially for adults over 50 and 60. Hit the subscribe button, give this video a like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. Your support helps the channel grow and allows me to reach more people who want to move better, feel stronger, and live healthier for years to come.